Marysol, it's great to have you on the podcast today. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Adam. The pleasure is all mine.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you on. And yeah, I just kind of like thought I'd introduce you and basically go into like how you kind of got into like nursing because you do nursing um, like right now, and like previously we was
Yeah,
talking about like a lot of the discipline that had to kind of come with that when you was doing your like course.
of course. Lots of discipline, lots of reminding myself why I got into it in the first place in order to pass those classes and take those exams and be confident that I was going to get through it.
Yeah, because we were saying like you had to have like a poster of reminders, reminding you to keep you on track, as to
Yes.
why you was doing it.
Yeah, I had my why written on a poster stuck to my wall with reasons such as, to help other people, to be financially stable, to help my loved ones, to be able to retire, to not worry about money, but also to have that self-fulfillment of practicing as a nurse and what that means in terms of a larger scale, like with the community, the impact that I'm making not only on an individual, but on that individual's family, and how that could have a domino effect to a community at large, which is kind of like how I'm working now with the community and the public health sector.
Yeah, no, exactly. And there's like you said, there's so many kind of like layers to it, from like your role that you're doing. So you're helping people. There's all these other things that like go with it.
Right. There are so many fields of nursing that I can be in. I've done anywhere from pediatrics to operating room nursing. I have been in dermatology and beauty, so the aesthetic side of nursing. And with all these options, it does, there's a constant, and that's making sure you address the person as a whole, keeping in mind that there's a spirit in this body, there's words that can cut as well as words that can heal. And I want to represent the healing aspect. So I've also learned like complementary alternative medicine practices, such as like Reiki, energy healing. I'm familiar with acupuncture, certain vitamins, minerals, herbs that can help you. Why? Because we're a being that's so integrative, right? Mind, body, spirit, that there's got to be more than just medicine to address the human person. So I'm interested in all that too.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely key. I think that's something that I'm definitely interested in as well. Like, I'm pretty spiritual, and I'm into like quite intuitive into energy, and I think there's a lot more kind of happening than what we can kind of see. It's not just take this pill, you'll be okay tomorrow. It's like there's a lot more kind of going on. The reasons why someone's having like what makes me curious is why is that person experiencing that health issue? Like surely there's something like behind that, like suppressed emotion or trauma or something that's happened because you hear about it quite a lot where people have had something happen to them and they have some kind of therapy or some alternative therapy and they're okay, they're not in pain anymore.
Right. Yeah. Cognitive behavioral therapy, there's lots of other routes in the psych world that could definitely heal you from your past traumas psychologically, emotionally, and that may also translate in the physical realm. Like hypochondriacs, these are this type of people that think and think about a certain condition or a group of signs and symptoms, and they actually do manifest being sick in some sort of way. They actually bring it upon them. So that it goes hand in hand with what I'm saying about remembering to address more than one dimension of the person. You know, there's actually there's a book. Um, I can't remember the author off the top, but it has to
That's fine.
do with social connection and how we are wired to feel pain. Emotional and physical pain come through similar pathways. And you can actually take, he's a neurosurgeon, neuropsychiatry, and you can actually take acetaminophen, like a Tylenol, and it can help with emotional pain, say if a loved one passed. Why? Because the nerves, the neurons, the pain receptor is the same. It's a similar pathway. So yes, you could, you know, take a pill and feel better, but also what are your day-to-day habits? What are your coping mechanisms? Professionals should review all that with whoever is struggling with like mental illness or mental health problems.
Mm. Yeah, no, no, exactly. I think, like you said, it's pretty amazing as well how the, you know, not just like the to the physical side of it, that kind of emotional side of it as well, where it's like fired off, you know, in the same areas. Um, like when I remember when I had PTSD when I was like 14, you know, exercise helped me a lot. You know, how can I help me through it? And I think there's definitely something about, you know, the benefits of exercise on your mental and like emotional health. It almost, for me, you know, it shifts things. I think there's something definitely, you know, more going on, you know, in that side of things.
Absolutely. There's a lot going on in the background. For example, you know, when people are so deep into their depression, if they come into the emergency department for that reason, you know, we as clinicians, we need to ask if they want to hurt themselves at that point in time. And if so, if they have a plan to carry out this feeling that they have to just, you know, end things cold turkey, that's really running away from just a boatload of problems that they've just accumulated and that they haven't known how to deal with it. So, you know, there's things that you can do to prevent that outcome. And, you know, we all need to constantly learn about ourselves, introspect, maybe journal, talk to friends. That's why being social and having a network is so important. You should at least be able to count on one other person, I believe.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's definitely key, isn't it, as well? And you know, like this, it's like you know, if you talk about something, you get that load off your chest, you know, and you feel better for it. So it just shows you, you know, like holding on to stuff, you know, and not being able to voice that. That's going to like surely kind of manifest itself in other areas in your body, you know, and cause other problems and stresses. I know when I worked in one place, I was really stressed, and you know, I didn't want to tell my manager about what was going on. And I remember just feeling like your body just kind of sort of fight and flight, and until you then talk about it, it kind of dissipates, and you're like, oh, it's not so bad now. But that's like a small example. But I'm saying, as you mentioned, people who've got things going on, you know, like I said, there's all this, you know, you don't know what's happened in their past, you don't know what's happened in their life, or you know, abuse or trauma, these kind of things, and it all kind of interlayers, doesn't it?
Right.
And then it's
That's why
hard
you
to
should,
address it.
yeah, that's why you should always be kind to other people. And you know what? Why should therapy be like taboo? We shouldn't have a stigma behind that. I believe that everyone has some sort of trauma at some point in their life. This unresolved trauma can translate into other areas of your life. And if you don't take care of it soon, it can, like I say, manifest in another area and possibly be detrimental to your success success or may hinder you reaching a goal and be an obstacle for you. You don't want anything to weigh you down. I believe if you have the right coping mechanisms, you can get very far much faster.
Like with what we're talking about, sorry, excuse me. With what we're talking about is, have you seen like a difference since COVID? Like in client, clients or people coming in and their kind of emotional problems.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen people very worried, very concerned, but the other side of the spectrum is also people who have accepted the fact that, okay, I got diagnosed with COVID. Now what's next? Well, you need a quarantine for right now. The CDC recommends 10 days. So it used to be 14. Now it's do your 10-day quarantine, isolate in your home or isolate in like our facility who medically monitors these individuals who are homeless. And, we take it from there. If they happen to be more symptomatic, if they're in respiratory or cardiac distress, we send them out to a higher level of care and coordinate the care that way. People, I would say the grand majority of people are recovering without getting any worse. So that's a positive. What's also positive is that, all these efforts from the researchers that have taken them months to learn about how to make a vaccine has officially, come true, and it's finally getting out into the public. So naturally, things are taking their next steps as they have been planned. Just like any other virus, if this happens again, we need to go back to the basics. Like remember to overall have good hygiene, shower every day, wash your face twice a day. Even dental caries, infections that can develop in the mouth, if swallowed, this bacteria can actually end up not only into the lungs, but also get to the heart. For example, there's a condition called endocarditis that has been linked to a bacteria, Staphylococcus aureus, that is common in our body, but if it's overwhelmed with that virus, with that bacteria, it could even get into the heart and inflame the heart. So there are things that with our simple hygiene daily practices, we can prevent. So, who knew that as simple as, brushing your teeth and flossing, you could prevent a heart condition? Well, it's true. So going back to hygiene, cleanliness, I think this quarantine has made people a lot more conscientious about washing your hands, cleaning your surfaces. So really going back to the basics can save us from a multitude of diseases.
No, it's insane, isn't it? Like you said, there's that bacteria that can, be in your mouth and it can link to this. And just by like using mouthwash or flossing or brushing your teeth, regularly and looking after your own personal hygiene can like, prevent like such a serious kind of like health issue or like, catching the virus or whatever. And I think it's definitely something that you said people are a lot more mindful now of hygiene. I go to supermarkets and shops, there's sanitizer. I mean, yeah, it's kind of like probably the law, but I think it's kind of like worldwide now. People are just, I like to think, taking more effort to be mindful of like their well-being and how, their personal hygiene. I mean, I did see an article, I don't know if it's true, but it said something to do with like mouthwash, like being able to, like I said, I don't know this, but I think it was saying it can like kill COVID or something, or it helps get rid of the virus in your mouth, have mouthwash. I don't know how true that is. But when you say things like that, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Just to look after your overall hygiene.
Right, yeah. That probably, hasn't been studied to a huge extent, being that COVID is very new. But if you look into not just COVID, but other viruses and bacteria. Yeah, I do see how, it shows you on the bottle, oh, this mouthwash kills 99 point whatever percent of germs,
Yeah,
right? So I'm sure these viruses are among that percentage. Like,
yeah,
if you studied and you make a claim like that for your marketing, it's got to be true. Otherwise, it's
yeah,
false advertising all over the place.
yeah, yeah. It's like saying, "Oh, your shampoo does it as well," and you'd be like, "What, really? Cool."
Yeah, so I mean, if it's on the bottle, it must be true, right?
Yeah, yeah. It is interesting. I think like as time goes on, I think they're kind of like learning more things about it, and I think as more time goes on, they're going to discover, different ways of combating it, different effects of it. I think because it's so new, isn't it? Really,
Yeah.
it just takes a bit of time to catch up with kind of finding out things about it. But
Yeah.
but as well, I was going to mention like you've been on like television. I saw you was on like what was it? You was on
Yes.
a news program where it was like a day in the life of your work or something like that.
Yes. I was recently on The Doctors. This is a TV show hosted by CBS. And I basically went through a day in the life as a registered nurse in the public health sector. So basically what I'm doing now is, medically supervising these homeless individuals during their isolation period. And, I've been now in touch with several homeless individuals who have gotten COVID, or even, before them, just coordinating to get housing in the surrounding of LA. And so it's been very rewarding at first, quite daunting, to be honest, because no one knew what to expect with COVID, right? So I was taking a bunch of precautions, still do at home, to make sure I don't bring it home and have it infect my family. But basically, I never knew or didn't think I would get into the public health realm to begin with. At first, which is lovely about nursing, I started in the operating room, and there was a need, right? The worldwide pandemic. I thought, okay, I got to switch things up, and why not, help offering a helping hand to where it's needed most. And the homeless, they can be neglected, um, if people don't pay attention to them. They can be the source of infecting a lot more people. So why not have a group of people taking care of them, so that it could help the community at large. So that's what I've been up to lately.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, and I think like like it's really brave and a really positive thing, that you're, not just in that sector, of health workers, but as well to decide to want to help in, this department as well with what's been going on in the world.
Yeah, it's definitely also helped me have this sort of gratitude to having a home, having a bed, having my basic nutrition, water necessities. Because some of these homeless individuals, they people do it by choice, people do it by necessity. That they don't have another place to go, they don't have people to count on, uh, people to move in with. For some people, it's temporary. For others, they're chronically homeless and they're there for years, just out on the streets, with a new community of people they happen to run in with, and make friends, and they become their family. So, I've seen a lot. I've thankfully got to ask a lot of questions, have my mini interviews with these individuals, and it just makes me more thankful and appreciative to my current condition.
Mm. Yeah, no, that's a really good point, isn't it? And I think like with that like homeless side as well, like they're vulnerable, aren't they? They're in a place where they might mix with somebody, and they've got it, and then they don't have too much protection, too much. They because I know in LA there's like a big kind of homeless population, isn't there? And they have like they have tents. I've seen like tents and things like that.
Yes, out on the street, just sleeping in these cold conditions. One thing is sleeping on the floor, which I did for the first couple months during this pandemic. But another thing is sleeping on the floor and on the street, which is their situation. And that just must be like, what kind of quality rest do they get then,
Yeah. I remember when I went to New York in January with my friend, and we had to move apartment to where it was to somewhere else, and was going through the streets of New York, and this is January, so it was like probably say it was probably around -15, probably it went even colder in the night, but it was going down the streets and there's homeless people in like cardboard boxes, and I just felt really sorry for them. Do you know what I mean? I just wanted to help them, and it's like it's a funny situation because like what can you do? What can you do to help? There's this divide where I think a lot of people in the public kind of overlook homeless people, and it's kind of like, well, there's a fine line because anybody could be homeless. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of fine line in life. You lose your business, you don't have the money, don't have a house. It's that could
You're
happen to
right.
anybody, and I think we don't always think about that until until you kind of have that perspective where you see it close hand, or you meet these people and you speak to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or, you could also make steps to prevent that from happening. You could do your best to have an allowance and save it.
Mm.
People recommend up to 12 months of your monthly earnings set aside for emergencies.
Mm.
So you can, if you're financially literate, though, if you were taught this, you can sort of prevent homelessness. But most people aren't really taught this. It's not something widely taught in school to, a finance class, an entrepreneurship class. We don't really have that in the States. I don't know if it's different for the UK. Were you ever exposed to like an entrepreneurship class in general education?
I mean, in my school, I didn't go to a private school or anything like that. I don't know if I don't think it's something that's in the mainstream curriculum. I mean, I remember the only kind of thing that school like life skills was like we had like an interview day, and it was like
Okay.
you had an interview, but there was nothing was really kind of taught in entrepreneurship or preparing for like money and this kind of thing. It's mainly just the core curriculum. And like I said, I think as you mentioned, I think it's something that
Okay.
should be brought into place.
Right. I mean, it's funny you say that. We have that in common. I went to a private school also, and we
I
did
didn't,
have.
sorry.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I actually had an interview day too, though, like to prepare for, um, to interview for your future job.
Mm.
And so, but it's similar to your case in which we didn't really have like a designated entrepreneurship or finance class. Not until higher education, if you choose to particularly study that field.
Yeah. I went to university and did criminology for a couple of months, and I think we spoke about this when we first met, and there was this kind of course. What was it? It was like a project thing alongside the course which you could volunteer, and that was kind of like business and entrepreneurship and that kind of thing. And it was like giving you a chance to create an idea and to build on it. And I was like, wow. I was like, where's this, why isn't this kind of brought into schools? And, there's a big system to it, isn't there, really? It's
Yeah.
go to college, get a job, everything else. Which is fine if you're happy doing it. But I think
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people who want to go into business or entrepreneurship, a lot of people who've taken the other road don't really understand it if they've had
You
that with the
know, I
script.
think I think you figure out a way if you're that interested to set yourself apart
Mm,
from what everyone else is doing. You go for the extracurriculars, you go for the extra 40 plus hours, which is a typical work week um, in the States here. So seeking that mentorship, I think makes a difference.
mm.
Like in your podcasting experience, like who did you pick that up with, or did you have a mentor to look up to?
To kind of go into this field of things. Um, I would say mentorship wise, people that I've kind of like looked up to is Joe Rogan. I quite like Joe Rogan and what he's about. He's got a podcast, and I'd say Gary V. I think Gary Vaynerchuk, he's really made me think about things because he's got his own podcast as well, and he does a lot of
Yes.
social media stuff. And I kind of like, I think it's when he was talking about, just DMing people, just reaching out to people, because I used to put that off. I used to think, what are people going to think about it, and fear that. So I think that's something that really got me thinking about it,
Mm-hmm.
because I,
But if people
you know,
want to be a part of something greater, they'll jump
mm,
on it though. They'll jump on
yeah,
it. Like to me, I see this as a piece of history. It's not only an exchange of ideas, but of values and perspectives
mm,
that make people, it makes triggering a thought inside of people to want you to become better. And
mm.
I think what you're doing is great here.
No, thank you. I really appreciate it. It really means a lot. Really, really grateful. And I think what you're doing as well is great as well. And I think, with podcasting and with this side of things, it's very, very different. And I think there's, you like entrepreneurship and things like this. You spend a lot of time by yourself. You're the one who's editing it. You're the one who's reaching out to people. You're the one who's doing all these things, and you spend a lot of time by yourself. And sometimes, you come up with sometimes doubts that are like, nothing's happening right now. Why am I doing this? You have to kind of maintain that and
Right.
really
So,
push through it.
yeah, you're an example of an entrepreneur. And when you're an entrepreneur, you do atypical things that you may or may not have had a mentor or formal education to embark on.
Mm.
And in my case, I was the first to be in the medical field in my family.
Wow.
So it was kind of new territory. I actually come from a family of entrepreneurs. So they're pretty much my role model in the sense that sure, you can have a business and scale it, but you can also, they gave me the liberty to choose a career and follow it alongside an entrepreneurial passion of theirs, which is what I continue to want to work on and build
Mm.
after my parents are gone, and with the help of my brother. So I did look up to my parents growing up, but also like a saint that is now Mother Teresa.
Mm.
I really liked the fact that she also came from a pretty well-off family, but she kind of sacrificed that to help other people. I kind of liked that. I also liked being exposed to nursing in grade school by a nun, actually. she came to kind of see if we were interested in doing that, following the religious route. But, you know, she was also a nurse. So I became more interested in that. That kind of grabbed my attention.
Wow.
I remember my teacher at the time asking me specifically, like, hey, Marysol, do you hear like the calling of God to follow him as a nun? And I remember saying no, but within me, I was thinking, but the nursing, now that caught my eye.
Yeah.
So I had it in the back of my mind. This was like 7th grade. And then when I went into high school, my counselor, I kind of mentioned it to my counselor. Oh, nursing seems kind of cool. I was volunteering at a hospital, at a convalescent home for older people. And I did kind of see that perspective of nursing, and that intrigued me. So I want to know what else nursing was all about. So I remember going to my counselor, and, you know, we're trying to figure out, well, what schools can I apply to? What has potential for nursing? And she goes, you know, there is a scholarship, a memorial scholarship, from someone who passed away, who went to your same high school, who wanted to become a nurse. Maybe you should apply for that. And in my essay, I realized why I wanted to become a nurse. It stuck with me even more, that idea. And I think since then I took on that identity. If you ask other nurses, I think we kind of carry it as a personality trait, even nursing.
Yeah. No, it's quite something, isn't it, when you look at it like you're of service, you're serving in a very different way, you know, very, very deep, you know, place on you have to be very empathic, and there's all these kind of qualities, and you know, you have to, yeah, no, I'm trying to put into words. You have to be in control of like all these different things, and you have to kind of go to a certain place, I imagine. There's something very
Yeah,
holistic about it.
there's a lot of components that I love about it. It's advocating for someone who's vulnerable, someone at their worst. You know, we don't really see people at their best. We see them during the worst aspects of their lives most of the time, whether it's going in because of a needed surgery, recovering from that surgery. If, you know, they go in due to unfortunate events, hospital emergencies, such as like maybe you get a blood clot in your leg and you have to be there for days until it's cleared out of your system, to prevent from like a stroke or a heart attack. So we have all these conditions of why we need to go to the hospital, you know, mostly because of accidents and unfortunate events. But there are also very good events in people's lives, such as, you know, giving birth to a new child, bringing life into the world that we get to witness, which is great. We have so many facets, and the struggles and sacrifices that I had to go through to be able to have such a fulfilling career, I think was definitely worth it.
Yeah, no, definitely, and it's a lot of discipline, isn't it? You know, to get to that place, and to, you know, to study and to be committed, you know, to being on that path. I think like before we recorded, you were saying like, you know, you have to be so careful, you know, with the people you're around, because you know you can lose track of where you're going if you're around certain people. It's like that self discipline to, you know, like you said, be laser focused on the things that you're doing, and remembering your why as to why you want to carry that out.
Yeah, I actually went back to school. I'm 1 year into graduate education, and this is to get my doctorate, to be able to prescribe medication. So, and it's back, you know, the discipline, all my habits that I had in undergrad, I have to carry that out again. And definitely I'm safeguarding my time. Right now I'm on break thanks to the holiday,
Yeah.
but when I get back, definitely it's discipline again. It's goal setting, goal getting.
Mm.
Oh, but I'm excited because, you know, have you heard of the quote? It's not in the journey, it's in the destination.
Yeah, yeah.
Or it's not the destination, it's
It's
the
just yeah,
journey.
it's just yeah,
Like you need
just
to appreciate the journey. Yeah. Yeah. So
yeah.
but all these struggles, you know, it's part of something greater. And you gotta love the grind, right?
Mm.
To appreciate the ending. Because ultimately I will get there. And if you have a goal that you're listening to this, you will get there. But it's just a matter of you got to get used to the work. Because if you get used to the work, it's like default. You won't dread it. You won't really procrastinate on it. You'll just accept it and
Mm.
perform.
Mm. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I think they're really good points. And like you said, it's in that process, isn't it? And it's not just that end goal of where you get to. And I think a lot of the time we kind of do that. And for me, I definitely
Mm-hmm.
did that. I definitely did that. And this year has kind of taught me to take a step back and to look at it from a different perspective that, you know, it's a process. And, you know, like there's processes to lots of different things in life. You know, podcasting, you know, you have to network, message, emails, edit, upload it, etc. And that's a process. And it's like if you just so focus on the end goal, you're going to miss those things in between. So that's something that I've learned a lot. You know, like as you said, that enjoying the process and realizing, you know, to be trying to be patient. You know, because for me, I've always wanted to hit the ground running. You know, straight away.
Right.
It doesn't work
Right.
like that. So it's key
Mm-hmm.
what you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, and that you know, even going through those difficult times, those hard times, and you know, the uncomfortable times where you know you're along that path, you know, working towards what you're working towards. It's you know, like you said, you've got to go through that and get you know,
Right.
kind of get used to feeling that, and then over time, that what was uncomfortable isn't uncomfortable anymore. You know, you're kind of just doing it, as you said.
Right. And then when you do cross the finish line, you're going to look back and say, wow, like I did that. And you're going to be so
Yeah.
proud of yourself. Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
Hmm. That's it, exactly. No, and I wish you all the best in what you're doing with that. I mean, I think you would do great.
Thanks. Likewise with you. There will come a point where you're going to have a huge audience that will really appreciate your delivery and they'll want to watch and not miss every one of
Hmm.
your episodes.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
thank
because,
you.
yeah, this is gold right here.
Oh, thank you. No, it really, really means a lot, and I really appreciate it. And I think it's it's like you said, it's that kind of time, isn't it? I think it gives me inspiration. You know, like when you know when you resonate and talk to people, you know, who are similar to you, like you know, like how we're kind of talking, and when you see as well people who've done podcasts or other things or businesses, you see, you know, their early days and where they are now, and it's like if you watch like Joe Rogan's early podcasts, he's like there's a couch in the background, there's a guy smoking. You're like, what the hell's going on here? Like, what are they even what what are they even talking about? And you know, he's done really well, and you can see the progression in that, and um, yeah, it's quite humbling, isn't it? I think we have to kind of go to a very humbling place.
Right. As long as you don't let it go, you can't
Mm,
quit.
mm,
I feel like, you know, if you quit, it's like it's starting over again, but you're kind of, it's not in, insult to yourself, but it's all that time, that precious time that you kind of taken for granted, really. I see nothing wrong in quitting on something that you realize wasn't going to work out.
Yeah.
You're kind of saving your time in the long run because you're choosing a different happiness. But it's the quitting and trying again at something that you're really destined to achieve or accomplish. I feel like people can get it right the first time around if they really give it their all. So like that's the type of quitting that would disappoint me, is if you actually are destined to a certain outcome, but you don't give it your all and you have to like wait an extra year to like retake a class to then pass it and move on.
Yeah.
You know, you potentially could have done it the first time around. You know, you just happen to be, you know, extra lazy, or maybe you set a lot of excuses and, you know, X had to happen for you to take it seriously again. Like that's the type of quitting that I think you should avoid. Like if you really make a goal, I don't think there are many excuses, if any, for you to make.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good point. I think, like you mentioned, that other pitfall is the kind of like the harder way of learning almost, isn't it?
It just takes longer.
Yeah. And like you said, there's nothing wrong with, you know, if something doesn't feel right, it's okay to change course. And like I said, if you're doing something for X amount of years and you go, okay, well, I'm going to do this now. Like I said, that's fine. But, you know, knowing that you deep down inside of you want to do that and then you quit, like you said, then you're like, it's, you know, I feel sorry for people like, you know, when people are like that, and or they don't try, you know, they know that they wanted to do X, Y, Z, but they didn't, and they did something else. And then you're like, you've got all this inside you as a person which you could be putting into this, but you never did. Do you know what I mean? That stuff kind of like scares the crap out of me.
Yeah, it's wasted potential.
Yeah, and I've seen that in some people. And it's like, wow. But it, you know, that's
Yeah, and
their path.
it's sad, isn't it? Like you have so much potential, and why not kick your butt off and fulfill your potential? Like, don't you want to achieve greater?
Yeah, I've had this conversation with someone I know, and this person's like really good, you know, very, very talented, got a lot about them. And I always try and like, you know, give them advice on things they need to do and things they need to tap into to, you know, get that going more. And sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. And but you know, ultimately it's got to come from them, hasn't it? It's like you can't force someone to change. It's, you know, if that makes sense.
Right. It absolutely does. You can't really feed into someone determination, empathy, you know, the heart and the grit. It's got to come from you. But it could come from exposure and being surrounded with people that grind, like my parents. I saw that growing up. I saw, you know, working late hours, sacrificing family time, going out. And I kind of, you can adopt that. But if you're not surrounded by that, if your environment is different, you're not going to get that discipline, or it'll just be harder. But if you study self-made millionaires, something sparked in them to achieve great heights. But, you know, they were exposed to it, whether it's virtually, books, audiobooks, YouTube, podcasts. you can get these virtual mentors like Gary Vee, Ty Lopez, um, Grant Cardone. He's huge on real estate.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, him and his wife Elena. They set great examples for us. If you didn't have like a parent, Uncle G, Grant likes to refer to himself as Uncle G, like, hey, I'll be your uncle, right? If you need a role model, let it be me, right? So you can have access to all these great people that are like-minded at the reach of your fingertip now.
Yeah. No, exactly. It's definitely, like you said, looking for those, external
it's
sources.
Just it comes down to wanting, right? You just got to want it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I had a guy on my podcast called Glenn Lundy, and he's friends with Grant Cardone, and he's had him on his show. And like Glenn Lundy, he's a really, really great guy. He runs a morning show called Rise and Grind, and he turns up at like 5:30 in the morning, 5 days a week, 6 days a week, and he does this morning show on streams it live.
Nice.
And he was on Forbes magazine like recently, and it, like I said, he's like a role model of mine as well. And it's surrounding yourself with those right people, isn't it? And kind of telling yourself, that I'm going to be, like this, or I can achieve that thing as well, isn't it? It kind of starts that kind of like mindset, doesn't it? Of really tapping. You have to really tap into a certain place.
Right. Yeah. So like people recommend books. I like to recommend like podcasts too. There's this one called the Ed Milet Show, the Max Out Show.
Yeah.
He has really good interviews also with people from different industries, kind of talking about their life and this common theme that they get out of the talk. It's great. You should take a listen to that also.
Yeah. No, I'll definitely check it out. I think it's important to to consume things that are positive and that you think you're going to benefit from, isn't it? Especially now. Trying to think as well, like who your kind of like role models or mentors. Did I ask you that previously? Didn't ask you that, did I?
Yeah. So we, to recap, it's my parents, Grant, his wife. Those are good. Ed Milet, he's great. And hey, like people recommend books. They're gonna say, "Hey, have you listened to the Parrsitivity podcast?"
Yeah.
Right. But also a book I like is The One Thing by Gary Keller. It's sort of having this one goal at a time, making a strategic plan to get there, and making sure you follow through. So he's against multitasking. He says, well, just have one goal. Line up all your ducks and go get it. So that's a really good one too. It makes you think of what you value in different areas of your life, like spiritual, finance, family, and it'll make you look at all these perspectives.
Yeah, no, it sounds great.
Yeah, take a read.
I think it's important to read, and to look at, if you don't have time to read, there's always audiobooks, isn't there, or podcasts. But I think it's always, you can take so much value from,
with
reading
Adam
or
Parr.
listening to. Yeah, or even
Yeah, you've got a lot. I have a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah, no, my mum was saying to me the other day, like, how many have you done now? Or, I think my mum's on like episode 30 or something like that. I'm like, I'm nearly at 200. So,
congratulations.
Yeah, no, cheers. It's not been easy. It's like I said, it's been a process. I've learned a lot, about myself, about other people, and it's definitely something I think everyone should do. You know, be on a podcast or do a podcast. You know, because I think we've all got things to share. We've all got stories, and we can all take, you know, some value from what people have had happen in their lives or what they're doing. You know, their experience and view on things.
You're right. Yeah. I've thought about it.
Yeah. Well,
Maybe
if you
after I
have,
read a book or something.
yeah, I mean, if you ever do, I'd always share your content, and you know, happy to have you on. And I think, you know, it can open up lots of doors, and I mean, connections and friends. I mean, I never thought I'd meet, you know, some of the people I've met, and you know, like yourself as well. And it's pretty amazing just, you know, listen to other people's stories. Um,
Yeah, this was great. Meeting you.
yeah,
Thanks for finding me,
yeah,
reaching
yeah,
out after Saliha's podcast. This has been awesome.
yeah, yeah.
And I do look forward to keeping in touch.
Yeah, yeah. No, same here. We'll definitely stay in touch. And, you know, I've had a really great time talking to you as well. And, you know, I wish you all the best in what you're doing as well. And, like, where can we find you on, like, social media and things like that?
Sure. You can find me on Instagram, Enfermera Marysol. It's a mouthful, but I'm sure you can add it in the description box.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, of course I will. And, but yeah, no, it's been
And
great talking to you. Sorry.
thank you. Likewise, just stay tuned to
Yeah,
hear about health updates, things you can do to help your body, soul, spirit. And I look forward to keeping in touch.
yeah, yeah. No, same here. And, you know, I look forward to, you know, to seeing more content that you're putting out and, you know, stay safe with everything that's happening. And I think you're doing a great job.
Will do. Thank you, Adam.
No, you're welcome.